October 11th every year is the UN International Day of the Girl Child. It's also called the Day of Girls and the International Day of the Girl. This year's theme was With Her, a Skilled Girl Force. According to the United Nations, in today's world, educated and skilled workers are in great demand, but roughly a quarter of young people, many of them female, are currently neither employed or in education or training. And of the 1 billion young people, including 600 million adolescent girls that will enter the workforce in the next decade, more than 90% of those living in developing countries will work in the informal sector where low or no pay abuse and exploitation are common. Speaking of empowering women and their skills, for the past 5 to 10 years, we've seen a greater female participation in politics, and surprisingly, aiming for the highest office in the land, which is the presidency. A while ago, I spoke with some who once were at the forefront of the campaign for female presidency in Nigeria and who now work from behind the scenes.
But I think there's a lot that has changed in politics. I think women need to be confident. It's about, there's too much censorship, self-censorship. And I think that's the problem. I've done 4 elections and I'm doing a 5th one. And once you get into that space, nobody really begins to ask you those kinds of questions. And everybody who spoke here today is more than competent from what I can see. So it's a question of a lot of us just thinking we have to be back there. We don't have to be at the front. I think we need to see a lot more of the women coming out. And with Women to Women, we are beginning to tell them that, look, the women are behind you, because the way we have done it, structured, is our first meeting was to come together, come up with a charter of demand, use the demands to engage all the political actors, and then after that, the women who emerge, we now campaign for women to support women because of the quality of the women themselves. By this time, the women themselves will be champions for their own cause. I just read something and listened to something Oprah talked about. In life, we're called to different things. You don't get comfortable when your country is uncomfortable. And if you have the instinct, which was what took me into civil society work, into community work, into service on development and human development issues, I haven't finished my journey. And I'm finding out that the impediments I saw to the evolution of our society are actually in the political space more than in the community space. And therefore, I think getting into political space is about taking the concerns I have in the other space into the mainstream and asking the mainstream, look at what your society is becoming. And look, we don't have a choice. I think somebody said it today, I think it's Dr. Elisha Man who said it. The country is in its throes. The country needs redemption. And that redemption is not about men. It's about the destruction of families. Today, daughters are raped, daughters are used for all kinds of things. When societies are being attacked at its weakest point, that society is in crisis. Nigeria is in crisis. More importantly, we as women have sat down together and said, this is not the Nigeria we want. The Nigeria where our voices don't count, where our contributions are not put into account. So we want a different Nigeria, and we must rise up and speak about that different Nigeria. And that's what we are about in Women for Women.
I'm not sure that there is a way to measure the pulse of 180 million people, and say it seems that they have finally arrived at this point. One is aware that certainly there has been some amount of improvement in terms of, the awareness. There's no doubt that that has been growing among the populace. Is it strong enough to tip things over? I was just asking somebody today, I said, has Nigeria reached the tipping point? I said, I'm not sure, I don't know. So until we actually go out there and do something differently, then we will be able to look back and say, oh, so indeed we were ready for change.
And from across the world, women's rights activist and entrepreneur and author Lisa Pavlakos thinks women make better leaders. Is she right? Take a listen. You must have seen in the news a lot of female participation in politics now, especially in Nigeria, with the elections coming, more females heading for the highest job in the land, the presidency. We have a candidate. What do you think has caused this growing interest in politics for women?
I think it's absolutely fabulous, because I think that women stand for empowerment. Women are also warm and empathetic and can come from a place of love. I'm not saying that men don't come from that place, not at all, but I'm thinking women, we bear children, and we're mothers, and we are there to raise our children and show love to our children and set that standard example. And I think that when women go out there and they're, you know, in high political places, it's fantastic, because it's setting an example to so many women around the world, that if they can do it, that, you know, other women can also achieve it.
Do you think women make better leaders?
I think that yes, women can make better leaders, only because women have to go through childbirth, and childbirth is a very excruciating experience. And when you have to give birth to another human being and actually physically push it out of your body, I think that's when you realize how important it is to love and nurture that child. And so in return, as a woman leader, because we understand childbirth in a way that a man will not be able to understand it, that they can be more empathetic and empowering in places that some men would not be able to understand.
There are a lot of young people out there who have a lot to say. They're becoming more vocal. They want to be part of decision making. They're criticizing the policies. They're speaking to government. What do you say to them to help them redirect that energy so it's more productive than just criticism and just talk?
Generally, I find people speak up because they believe in a topic so much, because they've had some sort of injustice happen to them. And so when you face that injustice, that's when you are so passionate about making change. And I think it's fantastic that the young people of today are wanting to be involved to make change, because they're the ones that are going to be making change for people in the future.